Welcome to another episode of the All Tens Podcast. I'm your co-host, Josh West. With me, as always, Clay Harris. And today, Clay, we're being joined by a very special guest who's the co-founder and CEO of Strety, an officially licensed EOS partner providing a custom software solution to help all business owners running on EOS to get everyone on the same page. Please welcome to the pod, Brian Dosal. Brian, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Brian, before we kind of jump into the pod, Josh gave you like the brief intro, but why don't you share your kind of entrepreneurial journey with our listeners?
Problem. I got to get that same energy that Josh had, but I'll try my best. So I, second time software founder. And the reason that's important is that the first company I started when I was 27, Clay, actually, you were an early client of ours back then. I started bootstrapped, growing it by myself. And it wasn't until I was introduced to Traction from, I think, Clay, someone you might even know, but they gave me the book. I read it, fell in love with it as a young founder, not knowing what he was doing. Gave it to my whole team, said, hey, now we know how we're running a business. And the business took off from there. I think a lot of the efficiencies were helped, obviously, by Traction and EOS. I was a self-implementer. And anyway, a couple of years after being introduced, sold to a big private equity firm. My favorite quick story is I was leaving the next day. Like, I did not want to stay on the private equity firm, and they thought I was crazy. And I said, don't worry, the business runs without me. And they didn't believe me, but it did. And a year later, it continued to flourish without me. So fell in love with it. COVID hit around that time, and I didn't fully recognize how many people in this world were using EOS until my former colleague of mine, Larry, said, hey, Brian, EOS is really taking off. Maybe we should take that software that we use internally to run EOS and make that into a real product. And that was the birth of Strety, essentially. So now this has become, second time co-founder, but this is even more of a passion project because I believe so much in the model. So software guy at heart, EOS fanatic, and hopefully that's decent hype like Josh had there.
This episode of the All Tens Podcast is powered by Strety, the EOS software people love. With EOS Pure Tools plus additional collaboration and communication tools, you can run on EOS and execute on daily work all in one place. Learn more at strety.com. That's STRETY.com.
Oh boy. Anyway, well, that's awesome. So shout out to Brett Gage, because that was like the OG software company. I remember I used to email support so often that at some point I felt bad and like sent in a box of, I don't remember what it was, like gummy worms or something, because they said that was their favorite candy, and it bought me like quicker response times for at least a year. Anyway, so awesome. Love the journey. Recently, you've been posting kind of a couple different journeys that you've been going on in Strety. One, this concept of EOS Plus, and we're all, of course, big fans of EOS without the plus, but tell us a little bit more about what you've been talking about when you say EOS Plus.
Yeah. So again, I'm very much an operator, I'm the integrator of Strety, and I was at Brightgauge, but so I'm trying to think of how I can use all these SaaS tools better for myself. And again, one thing from the Brightgauge days was I had a project management system, I had an employee engagement system, and then we built this EOS system to run. Plus we had Brightgauge, which was our data analytics platform on top of all that. But I was always annoyed that I worked on the business on the EOS platform, but I worked in the business on the project management stuff. And I was like, these really should be one. At the very least, those two should be one. And then a lot of our rocks, being a software development company, were projects. Like, they just, hey, these are the quarterly rocks, but it really translated into one project, maybe two. So with Strety from the get-go, I was like, I want to build for myself. And myself doesn't want to log into many different software platforms. And this, there's more to it than just EOS. However, EOS has to be at the core. So you can take an Asana, a Monday.com, Basecamp, and then try to run EOS in it. And it's very hard. But if you make EOS at the core and you build these tools that support running a business, which is what EOS does, then it flows really nicely. So we call that EOS Plus. It's included in our, it's part of the same pricing and everything. It's just I want executives like me, operators like me, to log into Strety and run as much as their business, so you can see as much of it with EOS tentacles in it all. If that makes sense.
100%. And Josh, Do you want to ask a question? Because I have a question, but you can go first.
Okay. So outside of the tools and disciplines of EOS, and I love the approach, Brian, with having that at the core, can we talk more about what the features are that are plus? Sounded like, there's a nod there to more project management, but what else is included in that plus?
Yeah. So employee engagement surveys is a big piece of it. We have, one-on-ones are a bit of a gray area on the plus side. And that's why we actually don't charge extra for one-on-ones, but one-on-one meeting management, we won't charge extra for anything. That's why we just do it this way. So one-on-ones are a big part of our platform because people still do them, and they have different cadences for it. So that's a big part of it. Performance reviews. EOS does a great job talking about quarterly conversations, but practically in the real world, we have seen a lot of companies still doing performance reviews, whether they're annually, semi-annually, or quarterly. That's in there. We have this concept of check-ins, which is a feature that sends out, ask a question, and it's not a survey, so it's not private, but just ask, hey, what would everyone do this weekend? Or what's your favorite book? Or what'd you get done this week? In the famous, Elon way that became very politicized, but still a good question to ask. So like those type of tools that are outside the EOS world that operators still want to use, that's what we call the EOS Plus.
What's interesting is that when we, at my former place at WorkSmart, the IT company, when we adopted Strety, we were 100 people already, right? So we had like a bunch of these tools in place. Strety was the add-on at the like shout out to my MSP brethren who are still struggling with ConnectWise, but like they got the ConnectWise thing running all their projects and tickets and all those sorts of things. We had a mature kind of employee engagement tool. We had all those things in Strety, and so I had struggled, Brian, quite honestly, until recently to kind of see the place of those tools until I was with a client who's like 18 people. And right now their project management is in spreadsheets. Their employee engagement stuff is non-existent. And so for them to like not have to go find like the 8th, 9th, 10th tool and utilize the place where they're already checking in numbers on their scorecard, saying on track or off track on rocks. They can go in there to do the project management. They can go in there to do like the quick engagement surveys that we talk about regularly. It's amazing. It's awesome. So kudos.
Yeah. And I, like coming from the MSP background, I knew it, right? And that's why when we built it, I was like, trust me, I want this. There's going to be other companies, maybe it may not be MSPs to start with, but like there's enough people like me. That's how, I'm selfish. I'm building for myself. But yeah, it's the project management alone has taken off because everyone uses something for task management, and Planner kind of stinks. Asana's expensive. And again, the key is if you believe that EOS is the way you run your business, then like Asana is not how you run your business. It's EOS. And so if I can offer 80% of the features of Asana of Monday, like it's a no brainer, and it's, still the same $13 a user for the EOS and the EOS Plus. It becomes a no brainer, which people have loved. So far so good. And we have more tools coming, and the challenge, the magic for us is figuring out how to not mess up the design with adding a lot more functionality. And for new people that are new to EOS, we now hide those plus features so it doesn't feel overwhelming for the people that are just brand new to EOS that just want to get the core disciplines in. So design's a big part of it now.
Implementers everywhere. Thank you for that, Brian.
Yeah. Yep. Including my own. She was very adamant about that one.
I want to hear about your journey from self-implementation to working with an implementer, but we haven't talked about this, and I don't know what the roadmap is at all, but like one of the things, project management for sure, engagement for sure, and then the other one that all of them are like searching for the holy grail on is something around process documentation.
Oh man, thank you. What a segue. Yes. So I should have said it as our plus feature. So we do have a documentation feature. It's called Playbooks. So that exists right now. Revision control, assignments out for people to read. Like it works great now. The segue that you're giving me actually, which ties into our implementer. So we're working with Lisa Gonzalez, who's like the process queen. She's our implementer, and she's really taught us a lot about how EOS teaches process. And so, and I'm answering both questions at the same time in a way, but so we're actually developing a core process feature that still ties into our docs, our playbooks and docs feature set, but it's the EOS way of doing core process. And then, yes, if you want to, for like technical documentation or policies and procedures, that already exists in Strety in our playbooks feature.
If you were going to like, maybe we'll, depending on your answer, we'll send this to Lisa to pat you on the back. Tell me the difference when you're talking about those things for our listeners. Kind of explain to them what you mean when you call them out as different things.
Yeah. So what Lisa's taught us about the core process and process itself is like, it's got to be very simple, checklist minded. That's just a general way to think about it versus traditional. If I think documentation and process documentation, I think of long blocks of text and videos that get stale very quickly. So for example, the best example was we had a marketing person, the head of marketing, go on maternity leave. So she created a bunch of documentation, documented what she does. And it's like overwhelming and it seems like it goes stale very quickly. Lisa would have said, hey, she's got to distill that into 10 sub processes with 5 checklist items for each one that you can read, like a pilot reads a checklist before he takes off on an airplane. And then that's like an implementation of process. But that change itself is a massive thing because and she will say this and the book says it too, you document 20% to get 80% of the value. And so that, and in software, because there's tools out there that EOS implementers have recommended that are, again, another SaaS product to log into. And I'm like, you don't need to. Strety can do all that. So we had that documentation piece that you can put a bunch of blocks of text and videos, but we didn't do that simple piece. So that's why it's going to be 2 different features going up.
So, for our listeners out there, Brian, what they've heard is you successfully grew a business, implemented EOS on your own, understood it well enough to be able to successfully exit that business. It ran on its own. Then you developed software to help everyone else run EOS, and yet you still chose to now have an implementer. What is the value that you see in having an implementer for someone like you who obviously understands EOS?
Yeah, because there's so much. And again, I thought I knew a lot, and I'm sure I know more than the average person, especially building the software for it. But I just kept on getting reminded on how much more of a thread to pull. And the biggest aha moment, I went to a Great Boss workshop that we sponsored in Salt Lake City here, and I learned so much at that one day event that I was like, oh my God, like I'm doing a disservice by not actually getting professional help. Now, on the flip side, we were, we're bootstrapped still. Like we had an exit, so we're comfortably funded. But every dollar counted, and it was let's wait till a bit more mature. So also we wait till we're 50 employees, and I think that there's a magic there of 8, 9, 10, whatever. I don't know what you guys recommend, but there seemed to be where you start splitting out teams, and that's where you need the help, and that's where I started recognizing. I also had a call with another implementer friend of mine here in Park City, and he's like, "Let me see your VTO," because I went to dinner with him and I showed it, and I was like, it's not, don't worry about it. And he was like, "Hey man, like I'm not judging you, but maybe do these few tweaks," and boom, light bulb went off, and I was like, yeah. And then the leadership team got organized, and then our first meeting post that 45-minute call was better. So anyway, it was just more of the continued realizing that I don't know as much. And then once we hired, we found someone that fit perfectly. It validated all those concerns.
That's awesome. So where are you guys at in terms of you're working with Lisa? How far along are you? Where are you at?
We did our annual. So now we have our first quarterly. So I don't know where that's at in your guys'.
That's good. No, that's great.
So our next quarterly is in April, and we're a remote team, and we're people that have worked together for 10. Most of the team is from the previous company. So like the team health is not a problem. Like we are solid, but like we so enjoy that offsite, the annual, and the rest of them were going to be remote, but we all agree like, no, we have to do this remote. This is like, it doesn't, like there's magic in here with the process, with a third party, Lisa, using a system. So yeah, I'm a huge believer now. I think I've been on 3 calls this week with people asking me, hey, how can I run EOS better? I'm just hire an implementer. Like stop trying to do it on your own. So I'm trying to write more about it, and it's, people have been very happy about it, like saying, "Oh, I'm so vulnerable." I'm like, no, it's the truth. Like there's a time and place for it.
That's awesome. Well, we always kind of wrap up the pod with some nuggets for our listeners who are mostly entrepreneurial leaders, founders of business. If they had to if there's one piece of advice you could give them, one nugget they could take away, and we always do this cold, Brian. I didn't give you any heads up on this.
No, you did not.
But maybe there's one thing that you could share with our listeners to help them be a little bit more successful tomorrow. Maybe it's from this episode or something from outside of this episode. What would it be?
No, yeah, Wes, it's just one thing. I just say like the days are long, but the years are short. And so I think everyone, including myself with Breakage, get caught up on how hard it is throughout the days. And then I realized it was like 8 years of my life, and it's not a huge chunk of time. People spend careers doing stuff. So to have that perspective, and now I have that perspective better than I did back then, including like this behind me, this crazy, silly poster. This is our 10-year target, 20,000 organizations running EOS on Strety. And so it's a reminder to me every day that like, okay, the days are long, like what's going to happen tomorrow? But man, if you just stick to it, doing the right things every day, in 5 years, life will be completely different. And so that's what I think about. And that's what I think other people could appreciate too.
Love it. Thank you. Josh, any other nuggets to wrap us up today?
I think I'll just piggyback on what Brian just talked about. Without commitment, you'll never start, and without consistency, you'll never finish.
Yeah. Love it. Brian, tell the listeners how to find you, how to find Strety.
So best way, if you want to find Strety, Strety.com, STRETY.com. And I am on LinkedIn. I'm sure, you'll see my name, find me. Active as can be now, writing about all my failures as a self-implementer. So
love it. Cool. Well, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Brian, we're so thankful to you for the great product and for showing up on the website, on the podcast today. Thank you so much for your time. Please subscribe to the podcast, like, share, comment, rate, whatever it is that we do with podcasts these days. We're so happy you're here, and we'll check you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Brian. Bye, Corey.